Hello! Now, normally I'm standing outside the car talking to a camera, but times are tough. We are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic of 2020. Just when we thought the world couldn't get any stupider after 2019, we've got the coronavirus pandemic. And, if you're caught up in all of this, or, have suffered because of this, I'm very sorry. So hopefully I'm here to amuse and entertain and bring a little bit of motoring joy into your life. This car is the successor to my favourite car of all time. Quite honestly, I have cars that I've loved and would own again, that I've owned, and there are cars that I drive as part of this job where I want to say, yes, I would buy this car, but the Fiesta ST is the car. It is the car that when people are talking to me, most of the time people are like, oh, so what's your favourite car? And I go, oh, it's a Ford Fiesta ST. And they look at me and go, what's that? And then you get these really aggressive people who come up to you, because, I get to drive some pretty wild cars, and they always grab me and demand to know what my favourite car is. And they're expecting me to say something wild like the McLaren 720S. And it is a wonderful car, but it is not my favourite car. It is not the car that I would buy with my own money, even if I had it. And they are pleasantly surprised, and I still enjoy to this day the shock on their faces when I tell them I love a $27,000 Ford hatchback. Right? It's great fun watching the little faces fall and all the aggression melt away because they've got this speech prepared about how terrible McLaren or Ferrari or Lamborghini are,
This is the 2020 Ford Fiesta ST. It's not 27 grand anymore, but there are lots of good reasons for that. Some of them are great reasons. It's still a dead set bargain at $31,990 before on roads though. The new car looks a bit tamer, but is packed with stuff to go faster and help you out if it all goes wrong. They say it's more comfortable, more advanced, and even uses less fuel. It has a vastly improved interior with plenty of bells, whistles and other things the cliche riders haven't thought about. But most importantly, it still has the lovely Recaro seats. And yes, it goes poppity bang if you listen carefully.
I knew from talking to colleagues that this is a terrific car. And of course, I like to wait until I find out for myself. But it's the kind of car that most people can afford. It's the kind of performance car that most people on a normal wage can actually look at and go, even if I can't buy that new, I can buy that a couple of years old and it'll still be, bang up to date. So that is one of the reasons I love the Fiesta ST. But the fundamental reason is it is honestly the most fun you can have on a public road in a road car. It is so good. I loved the old car so much. It was so much fun. It was adjustable. It had its faults. The gap between second and third was massive. You only had full power for, bursts at a time, 15 seconds they said, but no one ever really told you what the gap was after you'd been through a 15-second overboost. But it was brilliant, and I drove it a few times, and every time I got in it, I realised what a great car it was. Yes, it had a terrible interior and all those things, but I knew they were going to fix all that stuff for this. What I didn't know was that they weren't just going to cut and paste the old car, which they could have got away with, and we all still would have loved it. But instead of just cutting and pasting, which is the cheap way out, some serious engineering has gone into this car. So 1.5 litre 3-cylinder, that was always going to happen because that's Ford's new small engine. It's that whole kind of downsizing turbo thing. That was a given. Power outputs were the same. Happy days. But this car, it's not just a bit better, it's a lot better. But what it isn't in any way is worse. It is still so much fun to drive. It is still all about the driver. And it's more about the driver because now you've got, here in Australia at least, a $31,990 car with a ton of safety gear, all that power, all that torque, all this gear. I mean, it's got a heated steering wheel. It needs a heated steering wheel. Not me, but it's got one. It's got all that stuff, but it's got a limited slip differential in the front of the car, around which has been built an amazing chassis. This car rides. I'm on a very rough road. The old car would have bounced me around and it would have been this fun, when it really wasn't on a long-term kind of proposition. This car's great. It rides like a normal, firm hatchback. It actually, you know what? It rides like an N-line Hyundai or a GT line Clio. It's got that firmness, it's got that edge to it. And, you know, those cars are a step down from their bigger brothers. This is the ST. There is no big brother. There's no RS. I mean, if there's one coming, let me know. This is as stiff as it gets, as hard as it gets, and as uncomfortable as it gets, and it is not at all uncomfortable. So from the everyday driving around doing normal stuff, this is a terrific car. You could actually close the book and say, that'll do me, I'm buying it, because as a city hatchback, this is fantastic. You can grab any gap you want. The engine hardly uses any fuel. It's got stop start. It's got all that good stuff. It's a really good car. But then when you add in the fact that when you point it down a road like this, it's astounding, and I will get to that. It's the performance bargain of the century. And I know the century is only 20 years old. It feels like it's been going 50 years, particularly over the last month. But it's extraordinary. And it's taken all the good things of the old car and just made everything better. The interior, top notch. This feels almost as good as a Volkswagen. And I knew that was kind of coming too from the Fiesta. From the Focus. The Focus ST line has a terrific interior. So I knew Ford could do it. Because, you know, the old interior was terrible. There was buttons everywhere. You sat too high. The seats were great, but yeah, there were flaws you had to live with. But there's so little you have to live with in this car. It's just really good. I'm completely overlit. Sorry about that. So let's talk statistics, numbers. Everyone's talking about modelling at the moment, which is a really fancy way of saying the sums. So let's not talk stats, let's just talk numbers. This car has 147 kilowatts and 290 newton meters all the time. Not some of the time, all the time. It weighs just over 1,200 kilos. In Australia, it is only available as a 5-door. So if you like the 3-door, you're out of luck. There is a reason that they don't do the 3-door in Australia. It's because they should have done the 5-door in the last generation, and they didn't. The only place you could get a 5-door was America, and it was made in their Mexican plant. It has that power figure comes from a 1.5 litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine, whole new interior, 8-inch touchscreen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. All the boring stuff, plenty of safety gear, including forward AEB, forward collision warning. The AEB has pedestrian and cyclist detection. 5-star Euro NCAP. NCAP hasn't done a crash test yet. Probably won't. The one thing that could count against getting a 5-star is that it doesn't have side airbags. I don't know why. I need to get to the bottom of that. It is running on 18-inch alloys with 205/40 Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss. Now, if you've read about this car from the launch 18 months ago, it was running on Michelin Pilot Sports. Clearly, that has changed for the better, I should imagine. But you don't really care about numbers, do you? And you shouldn't. Because what you want to know is whether this car is any good. Well, what can I say? I love this car. It is so good. It is so fast. what's really, really different is that limited slip diff in the front here. It's just sublime. It's so good. You can hammer into corners so hard like I did just then, and it gives you no grief. The chassis just closes in around the front end, and it kind of locks itself in, and where you point it, it goes, and it goes hard. Like, you know, I dropped down to second, and it found all that torque. It's got so much torque. 290 newton meters for a little car like this is a lot of torque. And it finds that torque, and instead of spinning it away on the inside wheel when you boot it out of the corner, it just works itself out and pulls you out of the corner. So you absolutely slingshot through, because not only is the diff helping you on the way out, it's helping you on the way in. So when you slam the brakes, it doesn't unsettle the car. The worst you get is you might get a tiny bit of tail wag, like when you do, if you lift off at a dumb point in the corner, you get a little bit of a tail wag. I mean, if you turn the systems off, stuff will happen. Don't do that on the road, folks. It's a dumb idea. But it's just so stable. Like the old car, which I adored, and really, if you just put a limited slip diff in that was awesome. But the ride was a bit lumpy, and it could feel like it was going to toss you off the road, even though it wasn't going to. And I drove that over some pretty rough stuff on the few occasions I had it. And while it would track, it was not pleasant. Whereas this, on the same roads, the same sort of conditions, it's just, you know, it rides everything so much better. Like that bump just there in the old car would almost throw you into the roof, but this one, just so much more compliant and so much happier. Well, my spine's happier, I can tell you that for free, because I did some very serious damage to my back a few weeks ago, and there's no way the old car could I drive like this. But you can go so hard into corners in this and accelerate out of them. And in this car too, you're doing a bit more work, because the old car, you basically had to leave in third, because the gap between second and third was so huge. But this, it's just, it's so good. Oh, I thought that was a cop. Anyway, not that I was doing anything illegal. It's like, honestly, it's so difficult to explain to you how good this is. There is no other front drive car that I have driven that can come even close to this. There's almost no torque steer, even though it has got a ton of torque. The engine, you punch it for a downshift, and it's there. There's no lag. There's no carrying on. There's no sense that it's not doing what you want it to do. And it's so good. Like, and this goes back to what I told you before. I loved telling people that my favourite car on sale was a $27,000 Ford. Now I have to say it's $32,000, but every single one of those extra dollars is absolutely worthwhile. This is a better car than the Renault Sport Clio, a car I love. This is a better car than the 208 GTI Final Edition, a car that I love. It's better than all of them, and it is honestly the best hot hatch on sale today. There are faster hot hatches. There are way more expensive hot hatches. I've driven the BMW M135i recently, and I can't for the life of me think why I'd have that over this from a pure driving perspective. Yes, it might be faster, but it's not as much fun as this. And that's where the ST is such a successful car. It is so much fun. It is focused on the drive, whereas the old car was maybe a little too focused on the drive because the interior was a dog's breakfast, but that was the same for a 1 litre one as well, so you can't really blame the ST for that. But this is so focused on the drive and so focused on fun. But it's now a more complete car because you can drive it around town without it ruining your life. You can, well, this probably wasn't that bad, but it was you know, it was a difficult car to love in the everyday, whereas this, anyone can drive it. You can just tootle around in it, and it's quite happy. It's more comfortable than the Clio. I'd say it's even more comfortable than the Sport Tune in the Clio. It's definitely more comfortable than the 208 Final Edition. The 208 Standard, there's no way you'd have that over this. Not that you can buy it anymore. There's a new one coming, but I genuinely have difficulty believing it could be anywhere as near as good as this. It's really... I was like this the first time I drove the ST 7 years ago, when I had less grey hair and about 5 kilos less on board. It was just phenomenal. And I'd driven it 2 weeks after the new 208 GTI, which I was like, yep, the king is back, blah, 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 blah. And then the Fiesta just blew me away. I just didn't think Ford had it in them. And so coming into this car, I was worried that Ford may have just not done the job. But boy, have they done the job. And it's so close to perfection. It just probably needs a better brake pedal, because it is a little bit soft, and my understanding is that if you go and get a brake upgrade package, that pretty much fixes it. But everything else is bang on. And here in Australia, we get the fully loaded package for $31,990 with a 5-year warranty, with a loan car when you take it in for your fixed price servicing. A Polo GTI costs $3,000 to service over 5 years. This will cost you about half that. And the Polo GTI is boring, and you have to deal with Volkswagen dealers. I used to be a Volkswagen owner. They were a pain in the ass. This is just... I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't buy this car. I really can't. I mean, you know, unless you're old. I can't think of a reason to buy this car unless you're like 7 feet tall and can't physically fit in it. And I can't think of a good reason why you would buy, you know, a more expensive hot hatch. If you want, I think the i30N is the closest thing to this that I can think of as far as how much fun it is. I reckon that's about it, yeah.
Ford could have taken the easy way out and just done the old car again with a safety upgrade and not much else. But the company has spent the money to reboot the Fiesta ST into a car that everyone else has to aim for. Again. And here in Australia, we get an absolute rip snorter of a car loaded with all the best stuff, and we pay less than almost anybody else.